Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling.
That night was never meant to become a story. There was no announcement, no countdown, no carefully framed photo waiting to go live at midnight. Just a studio door that stayed closed a little longer than usual. Lights that remained on past the hour when most birthdays fade into polite messages and routine celebrations. And yet, by the next morning, something had shifted. Not because of what was confirmed, but because of what was quietly sensed. People began to ask the same question almost at the same time, across different screens, in different cities. Why was the studio active so late? Why was there no public celebration? And why did this birthday of all nights feel unusually still? Then came the detail that turned curiosity into collective pause. It was said that inside that room there was more than one presence. Not an entourage, not staff moving in and out, but a second voice, soft, familiar, unannounced. A voice that did not belong to the night unless it was invited. No one rushed to label it, no one could prove it. But once imagined, it was impossible to ignore. In an industry built on constant visibility, this silence felt louder than any headline. And that is where the story truly began. Not with certainty, but with a feeling that refused to go away. Birthdays in the public eye usually follow a predictable rhythm. Messages arrive on schedule. Curated images appear. Gratitude is expressed, and the moment is shared until it dissolves into the next trending topic. But this night resisted that pattern. There were no celebratory updates, no casual glimpses offered to reassure the audience that everything was exactly as expected. Instead, there was absence. And absence, when it appears where noise is the norm, becomes its own form of presence. Observers noticed the studio lights, still glowing long after midnight. They noted the timing, the restraint, the lack of explanation. It did not look like a performance prepared for release. It looked like a pause. For someone whose voice has always been closely tied to emotion and endurance, choosing to spend a birthday night in a recording space did not feel strange. Music has long been a place of refuge, a way of processing moments that words alone cannot carry. What made this night different was not where it was spent, but how quietly it unfolded. The conversation shifted when people began to mention that the sound inside the studio did not belong to a single person. Accounts varied, careful and incomplete. Some spoke of low singing, almost tentative, as if testing a feeling rather than chasing perfection. Others suggested it was not a song at all, but fragments of melody, repeated gently, searching for the right tone. There were also those who believed it was simply conversation, unhurried and contained, the kind that never aims to be overheard. No recording surfaced, no clips were shared, and that absence of proof became strangely powerful. It forced everyone to slow down. Instead of reacting, many chose to listen to their own impressions. Instead of demanding answers, they began to reflect on context. What added another layer to the speculation was the name that quietly circulated alongside those whispers. Someone known not for spontaneous appearances, but for deliberate choices and carefully guarded boundaries. Someone whose presence, if true, would not have been accidental. That possibility reframed the entire moment. It was no longer about collaboration or coincidence. It became about intention, about why a person would choose to be in a private space at a personal hour without any professional obligation or public gain. Past interactions were revisited, not to build a case, but to understand a dynamic that had always been subtle. On-screen, there had been ease without excess. Off-screen, interactions that felt measured, respectful, never inviting unnecessary attention. Seen in that light, the rumored studio night did not feel dramatic. It felt consistent. This is where the story separates itself from conventional rumors. It does not rely on shock or exposure. It survives on restraint. There is no attempt to define the nature of the relationship, no push to turn ambiguity into declaration. Instead, the focus remains on the human element. The birthday is not a contractual obligation. It is a moment that allows choice, choosing quiet over spectacle, choosing presence over performance, choosing not to explain. In an environment where every action is scrutinized, choosing to remain unseen can be a powerful statement in itself. Many who followed the discussion noticed something else equally telling. The reaction was unusually gentle. Rather than heated arguments or divided camps, there was hesitation. People seemed careful not to cross a line. Comments reflected curiosity mixed with respect. It was as if everyone sensed that this was not a moment to be claimed, but one to be acknowledged and then left intact. That collective restraint revealed a deeper connection between public figures and their audience. It showed an understanding that not every meaningful experience needs to be translated into content. Some moments draw their strength precisely from being incomplete. As the day moved on, nothing was clarified. No statement arrived to confirm or deny. The studio lights went dark. The schedules resumed. On the surface, everything returned to normal, yet the feeling remained. Not because something extraordinary had been proven, but because something ordinary had been allowed to exist quietly. In a world that rewards constant disclosure, that choice resonated. It reminded people that authenticity does not always announce itself. Sometimes it appears briefly, leaves no trace, and still manages to stay with us. Perhaps the reason this story spread so quickly is because it touched something familiar. Most people know the value of a night that belongs only to those inside it. A conversation that does not need witnesses. A shared silence that feels more honest than any declaration. Whether there was music, conversation, or simply the comfort of company, the meaning does not depend on confirmation. It lives in the idea that even highly visible lives still seek moments untouched by expectation. And that understanding, more than any rumor, is what made this birthday night feel real. If you stayed until the end of this story, thank you for giving your time and attention to a moment that asked for reflection rather than judgment. Stories like this remind us that behind every headline are people navigating their own choices, often away from the spotlight. If you enjoy thoughtful updates that look beyond the surface and explore the quieter layers of public moments, we invite you to support our work. Subscribe to Update X24H to stay connected with stories that value nuance, respect, and authenticity. Your presence helps us continue sharing perspectives that do not rush to conclusions, but instead leave space for understanding. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having you with us again on the next story.